Chris, we're here. We're live. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Nice. I got that going. That should be happening. How's it going, bud?
Good. I don't believe you. I just don't believe you that it's up and running. But I'm good. I'm good. We were not here last week, were we?
We weren't here last week. But before we get to all the catching up stuff, I want to quickly get to this little affiliate stuff I got to tell our viewers about. So, guys, for those of you that don't know, for the month of December, Meta is giving us 20% discounts to you guys using codes given by us to you for whatever games you want. So if you are interested, please leave a comment below and with the game you want, and I will supply you with the link. And if you want a headset, you guys get $60 credit. I want to get it out of the way. If you want to support the channel, it helps us. You get a discount. Everybody wins. If you don't, we're just happy you're here.
And now
that,
that's out of the way, because we have
All
to
right.
submit that clip to Meta, we're a bunch of shills. Anyways, guys, no, I actually think that that's a good program. I
love this program, honestly. I really, this is one of the best things. I honestly like that I can give people discounts that they can't get elsewhere. And the fact that it's to help support our channel, I think it's a great win-win for us and the viewers without any pressure.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, everything that Meta's ever asked us to do, we always have to put it through our filters of like, do we give a crap about this? Does this something that we actually like and support, and is it actually of benefit to you guys, or does it just feel like kind of like, I don't know, shilly, right? Is really what it comes down to, because I'd be the first to call bullshit on channels and say that it didn't pass the sniff test, but this is just kind of a win-win situation. I would honestly push this exactly the same, even if we got nothing from it, just because it's like discounts. Like, who doesn't want discounts on all their games? I mean, for those of you who have Meta headsets, then you know that Meta's has referral codes coming out of their butts as far as like getting discounts if any of your friends have owned the game. And to me, it's more of that, and you don't have to go around begging people on Facebook or Discord for codes to their games. So I think it's great. Who doesn't want to save money? I mean, if you're on the PlayStation Store, this is usually more of a discount than you'll get on any pre-order or anything like that, right? So it's a good thing.
Chris, enough about that. Look, we've got things to talk about here. I've got bones to pick with you in regard to Behemoth.
And don't even start with me.
That's exactly where we're going to start. Well, I mean, it actually does kind of factor into this whole conversation about Melee, which, for the record, guys, we'll be talking about it, is just the whole issue of Melee in VR and just how much of a struggle it's been over the last 8 years to kind of, let's say, get things right, but just get things feeling good enough. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Chris, first of all, what have you been playing, if anything?
What have I been playing, man? I've been playing Alien.
Oh, so have I. So have I. We can't talk about it though.
No, we can't talk about it. But I mean, but it's relevant. That's what I've been playing. Like, I've been playing it on PC and PSVR 2, guys. So that review will be coming on the embargo date, which is the 18th, I believe. Okay. And right. So next week. What else have I been playing? Have I been playing anything else new? I played Grimlord. We're going to talk about that because, again, it's another Melee game. And I honestly, guys, didn't cover that game because I ate so much crap for my Behemoth review. I was like, I said to Ryan, I'm like, I'm not loving Grimlord either. I can't have another one. So we'll talk about that. And I think that's about it for me. What have you been playing that you can talk about?
So obviously my review dropped today for Action Hero, which if you guys haven't watched it yet, it's basically, it's super hot. It's super hot with a movie skin. So you play through like Indiana Jones scenes, the Matrix scenes, bank heist stuff, ninja stuff, all your classic action tropes, very similar to that Vendetta Forever game that came out like a month ago. But whereas that was a lot more like fast-paced action, this is super hot. So time only moves when you do. Watch the review, but the bottom line is, if you like super hot, you should probably pick this one up. It's got some issues, but generally speaking, for $20, it's a solid package, and honestly, a game that we've been waiting way too long to get. Like, why don't we have Super Hot 2 is in VR is insane. Like
I know, and this is why you're seeing developers dogpile on the idea, because it's so insane. that because it's such a VR game. I mean, when Super Hot 1 came out and I had it on the PSVR 1, I mean, that was I wouldn't call it a system seller, but it was a VR seller. Like for me, like when I put people in it, even though it was like pretty simple graphics, I mean that's an understatement. It was like 3 colors, but essentially, you know, it was the most VR game I could put somebody into. Like it immediately sold you on why VR was cool. Like it was a game that even though it was a flat game, personally, I feel like it's a game that can't be done any other way but VR. Like yeah, you could do it as a flat game, but man, when you could actually go like this and like watch the bullet go past your head, I mean I mean that was like that was like Matrix like moments for us. And I remember like one scene where it was like me and a bunch of guys in front of me. There's nowhere to hide, and they're just gonna unload on me. And I immediately like dropped to the ground, and I'm like crawling through my living room. I mean, we talk about this VR as F, right? Which I actually kind of hate that term because I just want to say the word. I mean, like what I'm like
VRAF?
Yeah, I hate that.
No, what do you mean? I like it.
I like it, but I hate that I sound like an elementary student because I'm not just saying the words. It's like we're grown-ups here. Fuck the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it. Is it's just I can't believe that no one that they haven't done a proper sequel to it. To me, like it's like money in the bank, and I hate to say it, but how hard can it be to make a like they could have just made a real sequel?
Just more level. All you want is more levels, and we're good.
That's what I mean. Like they didn't even have to reinvent it. I mean, as someone who actually I actually don't know much about this game. I don't even remember the trailer. I have a question for you. I'm not going to violate your review here so people don't have to go see it, but like
that's all good.
Is there more to it than like like bullets coming at you like in Super Hot? Like are there some, because it's an action movie, do you sometimes have to like deal with an explosion coming at you and like stuff like that?
Explosions don't really, the explosions can impact you. There are like you can blow up barrels and that kind of stuff. So and barrels can get close to you if you're not paying attention. But when you're dodging shurikens, you get melee weapons. But it's still very silly. Like the second you connect with these guys even once, they go down. So it's not like there's like a crazy like impact system. But the more the stages get crazier and crazier, they're full on Matrix like stages, like just ripped right out of the shit, like the movie. Just no, and it's not the hallway scene that everybody does. It's the Matrix #2, like the whole highway scene. But then they go beyond that as well. It gets crazy. It's fun. It's in the ballpark of Super Hot. It doesn't really go too far outside of that in regards to anything too special. But it works. Some game and sometimes like guys will appear right in front of you, like just appear, and you have to basically grab their gun and then turn it on them. They do mix up the formula a bit compared to Super Hot, but it's still pretty much in that same wheelhouse.
Good. I mean, a comment that and I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent with this, but there was a comment that came at us. It's an age-old comment. I just wanted to mention it again. Is people were saying, "Well, this is a bunch of bullshit. You gave Behemoth a 7, and you gave this action hero game an 8."
Yep.
And I said was like, it's just frustrating, but I feel like it's worth mentioning it again for anyone who might be watching, who might be feeling the same way. It's like, I guess different people have different ways of reviewing, but you and I have had the same outlook on reviewing, and it's the reviewers that I like to watch in the flat gaming world too, is that you review a game for what it is. It's like if I'm reviewing a game that's like a tabletop game, I'm reviewing it if it's a great tabletop game, and how does it play in that regard, and is it fun in multiplayer with people sitting around a table, and does it have depth in that regard, and blah 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 blah. So when I'm reviewing, when you approach a game like Super Hot, it's not competing in the same conversation or league as Behemoth. Like if I want to play a game like Super Hot, chances are I'm not playing Behemoth. Like they're so different, and they're scratching such different itches, and they're playing in such different arenas. I mean, and yeah, Behemoth is playing in like that AAA VR scene. I'm referred to it specifically as the AAA VR scene because I feel like it's just a different ball game than flat games, right? Different budgets. But I just thought it was really important to clarify that like we review games, like if I'm reviewing a racing game, is it a good racing game?
Yeah.
And if it's an arcade racing game, like if it's a Mario Kart, I'm not going to review it against like Assetto Corsa because
Yeah.
of course it's crap compared to Assetto Corsa. Like if you're reviewing it as like against a sim game, like or against a sim scale. To me it's just like apples and oranges. And I also said to the guy, I also didn't review that game. Like you're talking about also two different reviewers. And as much as it's turned into a rant, but as much as I like to I stand by this that we review games. We try to review a game based on just like if it's a good game and not if it's not necessarily if we liked it, like if it's our type of game. For example, like I reviewed a lot of puzzle games before Ryan and I joined channels. I don't like puzzle games, but I'm going to review it if it's a good puzzle game. Like I'm going to review it like as if I liked puzzle games. Like if I'm a guy looking for a puzzle game, would I recommend this to you? And that's how I review those games, you know? And of course, Ryan and I are going to get games that we review that aren't our jam, but we're going to give it like the most honest, like, I guess, bias-free review.
And I guess to your point here, and we're talking about Behemoth right now in regards
Of
to that.
course, right?
Like I'm playing through it now. After my playing through it 3 times, the first stage, I was pretty tired of the game, so I didn't really play much of the second stage. So now that I'm slowly getting through the campaign, I'm currently, I think I'm almost at the end of the second stage. I'm enjoying the combat more than I think your review reflected. And I know there's been a day one patch and stuff since then that apparently tweaks some things. Um, and I can appreciate. Well, this will kind of come into the conversation later as far as like the parry
Of
system and
course.
whatnot.
Yep.
I can appreciate what they're going for in this. That being said, I am literally getting through the peon fights as fast as I can because I'm sick of them. Like the game loop in that game still has me tired of the melee action in it. Like every time I get into a counter with just peons, it's like, why are you here? Because you're not going to beat me. You're just some 1 or 2 lowly guys that are just around the corner. And you're just in my way to getting to like the VR AF stuff that I want to see in Behemoth. I want to see these giant monsters. I want to see these epic moments, which I know this game has. And it feels like the game is getting in the way of itself that way. Like there's not enough epicness, and they're padding it with these confrontations that for myself they're mundane. And even the mini boss battles aren't much better than that. So I'll defend you. And then, I mean, you know, it came out today too. Like even though there's only like 4 or 5 reviews on Metacritic, it's sitting at a 40 out of 100 on Metacritic right now. So like to sit there and say like Chris is wrong in his review, one, you're totally welcome to say that, but to like fight him on that, like it's like dying on falling on your sword. Like Behemoth is the best VR game we've had this year, and we're so lucky to have it. Look, we are lucky to have it. It's the best game ever. No, it's got issues, but to just attack us for a differing of opinions when you see across the internet, like this game on every social platform I've seen, everyone, Reddit,
Divisive.
Facebook, yes, across the board, it's been. Some people hate it. Instant refund. I hate this game. It's garbage. Others are like, it's the best thing I ever played. It's amazing. Great, awesome. But I mean, we gave it a 7.
I mean, and I meant what I said. Like I'm not really affected by people coming at me and not liking my review. I think Ryan's the same way. For the most part, we just laugh at the comments. It would have really bugged me back in the day. I would have cried and been shut down my channel. But
I can't say what bugs me because if I do, then it'll come out what bugs me. But I mean, most things, 99% of the comments don't bug me, but there's one type of comment out there that just irritates me.
ignorant,
I
ignorant stuff bugs me. Like there was a comment in there that went at you. What the heck was it now? It was around Behemoth, and it was like that, like it was one of your graphic comparison reviews. The fact that they thought that Meta was paying you to dump on its own game.
Yeah, to bash the PSVR game.
He was like,
it was just bash the
Meta
game.
was bashing you to bash their version, and it's like. And you said this is like the stupidest comment I've ever heard, and you weren't alone. Like people dogpiled on him, and that was just a weird comment. Anyways, I don't want this turned into. We actually love the comments, and we actually loved the discourse. That was just a like someone was off their meds there, and so that's okay. I think the reason I started this with this my commentary on our review ethics is that. As much as you are trying to review a game based on whether you think like people will like it, and you're trying to avoid just say like some of your own personal bias, I mean, yes, that's going to leak into the game. Here's the thing. I like hack and slash games. I like melee combat games in VR. I've played just about all of them. We're going to talk about a lot of those. I still mean what I said in the review. I don't think anyone's nailed the secret sauce yet. I think I feel like some games have gotten there in some ways and some in others. I don't know if anyone's really put it together for me. Maybe Behemoth I got more critical with Behemoth because I was thinking about this today. It's always neat to see a type of VR genre when big money gets thrown at it, because it can be a game changer, like Batman, for example, which, by the way,
Game of the year
in the Game Awards.
Well deserved, that one. Game Awards, I think, finally got one right. I think is
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Asgard's was in there, I think, right? As was Metro, as was Metal Hellsinger, which I thought was an odd inclusion, to be honest.
The
Even
odd
though
duck for sure.
I liked it, and I'm a metalhead, right? But I don't really think it belonged in that list. An Arizona remake, and that might be the list. I don't think Batman personally had any. I don't think there was anything close to it. Metro would be the closest, I would say, probably. Well, maybe Asgard's, but the fact is that there are some bangers in there. So at least it wasn't just Batman and then games.
Yeah, a bunch of weird ones. Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like Arizona remake, I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I thought they put a lot of care into that. It's an old game. I don't know if I really would make that list for me, even
I don't think it would have made my list of like in the running for best game of the year, just because it is just a remake. And
would it make my list of the top 20 games of 2024? Probably, to be honest.
Top 20. Yeah. It's not a bad game by any stretch.
Like when we do our inevitable top list of 2024, I think it's really good. I think it's a good game. I had a lot of fun. I played co-op through it with a buddy, and but I don't know. I guess I wanted to see Savage Gamer. Like, I disagree with that. With Hellsweeper nailed it better than any other at all. I completely disagree with that. But again, I mean, this is kind of the conversation. Is that I think that it depends on what you want in a melee game, because there are so many different approaches, and I want to get into that deep dive. And so I'm not really saying that I think that Savage is wrong. It's just I don't agree with it. But that's the whole thing of like taking commentary on my Behemoth review. It's like, yeah, for some people, like I obviously resonated for them. I think some people gave it a pass because they needed this game to be great. Like, it was really important to them, especially, I hate not to be a dick, but if you're a PSVR guy and you didn't get Batman, you got Metro, this, and Alien. Like, this is what you got to be really excited about. And so, like, of course we want Behemoth to like land. And if you want it to be great, it's great. I had to be critical of it. That's what we do. I was trying to be a reviewer. You also have to keep in mind, guys, we got this before it got patched, and we knew there was a patch coming. We knew some of the things they said they were gonna patch, but there's no guarantee. And they gave this to us, telling us that it was like broken. Like, they knew there was issues. And it's like, I couldn't, like, I know that some people like Brian at Parole took a stance of, well, I'm gonna wait for it to get patched and then I'll give my review. Well, I know that a lot of our people that are watching this are like, they're pre-ordered. They're not waiting, especially if they're on PlayStation. They're also not getting refunds.
Mm-hmm. And a big factor of that too.
You know what? It wasn't just a click thing. We needed to have a review out day one, in case that's the version you got.
For sure. Like I said, like when we put out reviews, the bottom line is always to make sure we help people with their purchases, and to hold off on a review for a week or till the day 7 patch or the day 12 patch. That's not really what this channel's about. And, you know, the podcast is where we can come back and cover these things if they improve. But day one, if that game's out and it's broken, it's kind of our job to let you know that, so you can wait a week as well. It's not, that's kind of how I look at reviews, and why we do this in the first place is because, like, it's our job. I look at it as being our job to make sure people are spending their money correctly. And if it involves a big game or, you know, something like this, then we're trying to cover it as fast as we can in a professional manner to ensure you have the most information you have going forward. And like I said, it's just Chris's views on the game, or it's just my views. We're only one person. So, if you like what Chris says more often than not, then go with what he says. If you don't like what Chris says more often than not, and yet he says another thing you don't like, well, maybe don't listen to him anymore because you're weird. Like it's
No.
people.
also I also think it's important to be like, if you listen to my reviews, like for example, like I was looking back at my old reviews for footage, and it was like, okay, Undead Citadel, for example, I reviewed it on PC and Quest, so it's not hard to find my opinions on that. And I thought that game had problems, but I liked things about that game. It's like, you can watch enough of my reviews around melee fighting and probably figure out if your thoughts align with me to a certain degree. So that's all. I think that's all part of. I just wanted to throw my opinion into the mix. But anyways, I don't really feel the need to defend it so much as I think today I want to go through some of the issues that I think that all games run into, the different approaches of melee fighting, and what I like and what I don't like. And obviously, I want Ryan's opinion and all of yours too. I'd love for you guys to throw your comments in here. Behemoth, I guess, just to finish that up, it was just. Here's the thing. Let me start it this way. I said this to Ryan before when we were kind of bouncing ideas off each other for the review. I said, to me, with melee combat, there's two big camps. There's kind of like, you're going for physics-based, more simmy, so weighted weapons. You're really trying to like kind of get into like fighting tactics, like kind of jockeying and you're parrying and blocking and dodging and all that stuff, right? And of course, probably some kind of a stamina system. Then you've got the more arcade approach, and that becomes like more. This gets into more what Savage was talking about, and that is like he just said. He talked about, what did he used the terms there? Fast, fluid, visceral, satisfying. Well, I don't find fast and fluid necessarily satisfying, not in a fighting game. Like, I want it to feel chunky and slow and weighty. Like, I want to feel like I got a real, like, something heavy in my arms, and I want to feel like I'm doing some severe damage to someone, and just having their arm just kind of shear off in some kind of a, like, just whoosh, and it's gone. I'm like, I don't know, that doesn't do anything for me. Like, I don't want that. And you've got, and I think that on that, with those two big groups, you've got kind of you got your spectrums. On one side, you've got you're the most semi you can get, which I guess would be kind of like, whether you like it or not, like swordsman, blade and sorcery, legendary tales, I guess, kind of sort, although you got a lot of mystical creatures and stuff and skeletons and everything in there. But like, that's like you're much more weighty, slower, methodical fighting. I guess you got Broken Edge in there if you really want to. I mean, even though it's kind of a weird,
a lot of people love it, man.
I know, and even though it was super arcadey, it was like trying to replicate the feeling of really fighting. But then on the other side of this, you've got like the most arcade, which I would say would be kind of like games like, I don't know, like Crim and Mercenary Tales came to mind there when I was looking at our list, and After You Fall,
Until You Fall.
Until You Fall. I always screw that up.
Yep.
Until You Fall, and like in Gollum, and even Asgard's Wrath, where it was like, it's kind of like it told you, like, you kind of here. It's like, okay, now you can attack.
Yeah.
And I feel like all the games that we're going to talk about really do fit into either, are they going for a much more physics-based semi-fight, or are they going for a gamey, like really gamey, arcadey type of combat?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the problems I had with Behemoth is it was kind of straddling both.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with that power bar above their heads, and that really bugged me. Anyways, I'm going to shut up. You can talk for a little bit, I guess.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, like, I've had a very love-hate relationship with melee games for all the reasons we're going to talk about this episode. But like, I mean, going back to like, I remember Gorn. Gorn was a big deal. I remember, like, because as a PSVR 1 owner only, we didn't have anything like Gorn. Like, it was always a big deal that these things existed on PC, but we didn't have them. And so I remember when Gorn came to PSVR, I mean, it came with an awful control scheme, which they fixed pretty quickly. But I remember having fun with the game for honestly about 15 minutes before I was like, I get it. Like it's wacky, crazy physics and goofy fun. You know, like this. It's just it's this is and that sorry, I'm getting distracted. So and that kind of gameplay element carried over into games like Blades and Sorcery with more realism and a bunch of other ones as well. But it is that physics based kind of like I definitely appreciate that style over like the arcadey style, like the Until You Fall, where you kind of wait taking your turn. Even stuff like Gollum. Like Gollum was very similar. You had to kind of wait your turn, get in position and block. So for me, especially when these games rely so heavily upon their combat, going back to Behemoth, I mean, I am now literally just cheesing every battle I get into just to get through it so I can get to the good bits, because the combat to me isn't a good bit. Is it bad? No, it's just not where the game shines. I mean, you get those epic Behemoth encounters. That's where it's like, yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, melee games, especially in VR, has always been weird. A lot of people say like there's like, you know, without that without the feedback and not just like vibrations, you know, or a head vibration, it does feel like how do you translate that weightiness, that like that I just stabbed someone and it feels like I stabbed someone. And I think the closest game that got to that was Saints and Sinners, when you were stabbing zombies in the head and it just felt you had to like jam it and then jam it again, and you had to put the effort in that just made it feel more real. Even though you weren't holding a head, it kind of felt like you did. Like that was a very specific attack. So yeah, melee games just, I don't know, it's all over the map. I mean, I played a game today, and then I'll let you talk actually. Called Clone Drone in the Hyperdome. Came up for Quest today. I didn't get my footage together in time, unfortunately, but the game is basically, it's Gladiator, only you're like robots. And it's a super pixel art style, but it's full physics-based combat. So you can cut off legs and arms, and you have a shield and bow. You know, they can cut off your arm, which is hilarious because now you just don't have an arm in VR, but you're still alive. But it's that loose physics-based combat where like anything can happen. Like the blade can bounce the wrong way, and all of a sudden, like you're beheaded. So it's kind of goofy in that regard. But I'm appreciating, after playing Behemoth, I'm actually appreciate that freeform physics style again. Like it does a really good job of making me feel like a badass. Despite its, I don't say jank, it's just that physics based combat. Like I don't know what I'd say. Like but it's a solid game. I'm gonna play. I'm probably gonna review it. It's cool, but I think playing this compared to like stuff like Gorn, I feel like it's come a bit that physics based stuff has come along, or come a little ways since Gorn and Blade and Sorcery and whatnot, to make for possibly more engaging titles. But that being said, if they had that loose combat in something like Behemoth, I don't think that would work well. Which comes back to the whole conversation of just like what works in VR, what doesn't. How do you make a great melee game without sacrificing gameplay or making things too easy or too hard? It's tough. And I know you're more the melee guy. Like what's your favorite like melee experience in VR?
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I was actually thinking about that. And I don't know if I have an answer to you. Like I said to you before, there's a lot of games I love that do certain things I like, and no one's put it together. So I definitely lean towards the more physics based. I don't really like the arcadey stuff. Like Yuki nailed it, talking about how one of the biggest problems that VR has, so like, and we're going to talk about these throughout the conversation, is that it's really hard. You don't have the sense of impact, right? Like of actually hitting something solid. So there's always something missing. And that's in like weapon combat and like, you know, and boxers too, right? There's always that issue. I think boxing games get away with a little bit better because it's kind of like the thump of like controllers vibrating. Mm-hmm. Is a little bit easier to kind of get away with the idea of like the vibration in the controller. I mean, if you have the haptic vest wrists like I do, I mean, you could really try to double down on that. That feels good. I mean, the haptic wrists and the haptic vest, I will say, do help with some of these games, especially like with the Behaptics vest. Like if someone slashes you, you can actually feel it across your body. Like if they drag it across you, and if they jab it, they can do pinpoint hits. And if you block with your arms, you can feel it on the wrists if you're wearing the wrists. I mean, obviously a lot of people don't have access to that, but that really does help. And I hope this game gets B-haptic support, because hell yeah, that would be amazing. But like, for example, let me cherry pick, I guess, a little bit. I like blade and sorceries, especially with some mods on, so that like you can put some amazing mods on there that is insane that the game hasn't included those in. Like where bodies actually bruise and then they slice and then they bleed from the slices. And then obviously you can put on real gore mods so that they really gush. Like I mean, it's not realistic, but it's like right. I mean, I mean, I am playing it for that, but it's like realistic enough. It's not like Gorn. Like Gorn was fun for a little bit for me, but the cartooniness wore off. Blade and Sorcery had the visceralness, like when Todd talks about being visceral. Like I don't find Hellsweeper visceral at all. Blade and Sorcery, Hellsplit Arena, those are visceral games, and they're both on, both on is where I first played them on PC. Mods being on. Hellsplit Arena is another great one if you just want to go have fun. You just want to go ham on some kind of an enemy and just cut their bodies in half and just go visceral on it. Like that's, I mean, that, I guess it's like, again, like you guys are going to tell from me very quickly. Like I don't really care if I'm getting into like a really good sword fight of some guy blocking me and dodging and stuff in VR. I just want to massacre people and have it feel like it makes me sound sick. I want to feel like I'm really killing people. But I want that soft body
You're
physics.
sick, man. You're sick.
I like the soft body physics where you like this is what I said in my review. Like I thought that like even though they're zombies in Saints and Sinners both games, I thought they did a really awesome job of you just kind of poke the guy. If you didn't really commit to it, it just kind of like you didn't get past their body. But if you just really gave at, like then you'd actually feel it like break through that soft body flesh physics, and then it was like a little bit harder to puncture the skull on the head. And like the way they did that with the weighted weapons and stuff felt great. Two-handed weapons in that game still felt a little wonky, and they always do. I feel like that's always a problem in any VR game. Again, you're kind of your face. It's like you're trying to. It almost like I need not a gun stock, but a sword stock.
Yeah. I totally go
feel
with
that, right? And that would probably make all the difference in some of the two-handed experiences I've had in melee games. I actually usually typically like one-handed swords and axes and everything, just because it just feels less clunky, and that goes across most of these games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I'm talking about like, so Saints and Sinners nailed that, and like I was expecting that when I to Behemoth. It was like, what? Like, and it almost felt a little like sometimes if you hit them like the right kind of way, sometimes it almost felt like they were like rolling a dice and be like, yep, you cut his arm off. Like sometimes it would be you'd get that critical hit.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
But it wasn't like something you could plan on. You couldn't like say to someone, all right, I'll give you Blade and Sorcery, for example. If you go like look up, there's like videos of people breaking down, like if you want to take the head off every time, here's the arc. Like this is how you swipe at them. And they've actually got like cross sections to all the bodies mapped out of like basically, and it's a balance of like weight and speed and angle.
That's hilarious.
Behemoth to me didn't feel like it was like, I mean, of course, if you like went into like rage mode, you could just obliterate them. And I felt like that cheesed a lot of the game. And it was a lot of fun. And I almost kind of wish that was just how they went at it. But I mean, of course, you can't just cheese your way through the whole game. And like, I get it. It's a balancing act. And for me, I know that like Spooky was saying that there was a big patch there. I went and looked at the notes there while you were talking. So Behemoth got a big update today. And it's interesting that people might have attacked my review for being this and that, but they patched a lot of the stuff today they've gone in and they've messed with stamina. They tweaked two-handed weapons. One of the problems I had was, and I said this to you, that the dodge mechanic was almost kind of like it wasn't a reliable method of getting away, because they would Superman at you. Yeah. And like ridiculously so.
They would teleport. They would like just across the screen, just slide across the screen just to make sure they got to you.
And so they've adjusted that now. That like they went and tweaked your dodge, and they've also tweaked the enemy's ability to sidestep and dodge a little bit. Like they are Like I was like, it kind of gives me a little bit of like what's affirmation that I'm like, okay, I'm not losing my mind. Like I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they are tweaking this. Yuki was talking about that they've adjusted some of the difficulty settings. They've added I guess there's a right now they're calling it a test version, but you can go in and they basically got rid of the stamina meter. So the stamina, there's an option to play it with the stamina being you as
Good.
much as much as you can swing.
That's
Uh,
better. And I've never stamina meters in VR. This is actually a really big issue with melee stuff, and this is more like in boxing games like Creed, but even stuff like Saints and Sinners and Behemoth. I know it's the same developer, but having a stamina meter in VR, I can understand why they try to do it because it's this is a gaming trope we've had for years and years and years. But in VR, it just makes so much less sense. Specifically, like I said, boxing, like I said, playing Creed. I remember getting so mad at the multiplayer because it would make me tired when I wasn't. And the great thing about online boxing is like it's even, man. Like you should be playing, you and your buddy are fighting until you're exhausted. Like that's the best part. What game did we played something together where you were getting all tired? That's gonna bother me.
I don't even know.
Yeah, it was not too long ago where you're like, whew, I had to take a break. I can't remember what it was. Now it's gonna. But anyways, my point still stands.
Knowing me, it could have been walkabout mini golf.
Oh, it could have been. Yeah, I know.
No.
I remember making fun of you.
my
It
brain
was a sad state of affairs. But yeah, stamina meters have always bugged me in VR because like give enemies more health. Then like let me work to take them out, but let me take them out. Like don't let me have to back away from a fight because my character's exhausted, but I feel fine. I can't. That's actually a really big pet peeve of mine for VR in general.
And I agree, kinda, but it's also like again, this is the conundrum of melee in VR. It's like, but I don't want it to be a waggle fest. Now, yes, these have weighted weapons, so you're not going to just be sitting there going meh, because that's my biggest pet peeve. If I can do that in a VR game, like I'm immediately checked out in the combat. If I can just basically kind of just waggle it in their face until they die, right? Like I can't stand that crap. And so I'd much rather them go one direction or the other, right? And the only issue I have is like, so SS said, well, in Behemoth, like the lower the health, then you can cut off the arm. I get it, and that's an approach. And I'm not like, if you like it, I'm not dumping on it really. It's like I just I don't like the idea of a health bar. Like I like the idea if I come up on a guy and he's got bad posture or he's leaving himself open and I got a big ass weapon or whatever, and I can get at his arm and like make him an amputee, like I should be able to. If he's armored up, like if he's heavily armored, it's like, all right, let me whack the armor off. Like if that's how you want to do it, right? If it's like, maybe he's got chainmail on and stuff, it's like, all right, well, I mean, that's a little more difficult to show than maybe you can't hack the arm off. I mean, if a guy's like, I mean, you know what I mean? You almost treat him like some kind of a heavy in a shooting game. Like it's like if he's armored up to shit, then maybe you just can't take him up.
Yeah.
Some way you got to get explosives on him or something. Like I don't know. Like I just feel like I would have loved to have been in the testing phase of Behemoth just to make little tweaks, because there's a lot there I really liked, and that's why I said in my review at the end, it's like it's not that it's a bad game, it's just I'm disappointed because there's AAA VR feeling throughout it, and it's like, and of course you guys have to remember we also got the pre-patch version, and it was like, why is this so broken? Why did you give this to us? Why is this what you're putting out?
Yeah,
they did this with Retribution, Saints and Sinners Retribution, where there were issues all over the place. Like, and I tried in my review to not punish it for stuff I thought that they were going to probably patch right off the hop. Like, if I had given this a score based on like the game-breaking bugs, like bosses that disappeared and doors that wouldn't open, or I couldn't get past a part of the game, period, or like Gamertag, who lost his like one of his magical weapons and then just could not beat
couldn't
a
beat
boss.
the game.
Just couldn't beat, and it was like a 7 was pretty nice compared, like based on like I was really betting that they were going to fix that stuff for you guys, but I had to mention it.
Yeah,
Ultimately, I mean, it was just like, but I kept thinking like, should I give it an 8? Like, no, I can't give it an 8 when it's this broken. Like, I just can't. And you can see by all these massive patches, the day one patch, today's patch, there were patches in the middle there. It's like they know there's an issue. Anyways, I don't want this to turn into a
Yeah.
Chris defending his take on the game, because I obviously am not necessarily in the majority on that side of things. But the jumping off points was like what do you like in games? And I guess I did start to talk about my cherry picking. I like Blade and Sorcery. I think as a general benchmark for, especially with a few mods, how it feels. Now, they're not the smartest guys, right? Like the AI could use some AAA money. Like the AI is not great. Swordsman could arguably actually, especially near the end, had slightly like more sophisticated fighters. But Swordsman just never did it for me. It always felt like a poor man's Blade and Sorcery.
I don't know if I go that far, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, Swordsman was. Oh, I shoot. I have videos on here. Swordsman was definitely. It started off, yeah, like I said, it started off so mediocre, and they spent forever trying to fix the AI, or not fix the AI, but like improve the AI and add things. And by the end, it did feel like you were like it wasn't just a full on like stabbing guys. Like you had to be a little careful, especially on if you jack difficulty up. Like the foes were a challenge, and especially when they were armored up and you couldn't just stab them and kill them. There was a challenge there, but I'm not disagreeing with you, but because it's not a game I go back to or anything like that. But I appreciate what they were trying to do, I think is what I'm trying to say.
I think that a lot of the problem, probably for most of these VR games that we're playing, I mean, outside of the inherent VR problems of you're swinging in real life, but you don't feel contact. Your stamina versus in-game stamina. Not having really weighted weapons. And then if you do weighted weapons, which is my preference, like Blade and Sorcery and the Behemoth, Saints and Sinners. What?
You said doo-doo.
Did I?
If you do weighted weapons. Sorry.
But
I'm a child. I apologize.
But what I lost my train of thought now.
Sorry. I apologize.
Son of a bitch. I was on a roll there too. Oh man. Oh, that's what it was. I was like, the inherent issues that VR has in it. Like I said, like I just have to start over again because I was on a roll there. But like not having impact when you swing, weighted weapons, and how that lines up with your real hand. Because if they're weighted, like you swing and like you want to add weighted, but you also don't want it to feel like Surgeon Simulator where you're completely almost like out of sync because of the weighted weapons, right? And Saints and Sinners and Behemoth does run into that problem, especially Saints and Sinners, especially when your weapon was stuck in their body and you were like, eh. And then it would be like, and it would like swing 4 feet towards like catch up with your hand sometimes. So there's like these inherent problems, and then stamina. That's the other big thing, I think. But I think the underlying issue, it's not so much a VR issue, but it's the fact that in VR, a lot of these studios do not have a ton of money to invest in certain aspects of the game. And I think one of the other underlying problems is AI. Like if your enemies are not, like I would say, like, I mean, the two biggest AIs to master, I mean, obviously there's like in gunplay guys like covering and cover mechanics and reacting to you and calling their buddies and flanking you. Like shooter AI, we obviously know very well whether it's good or not, especially like line of sight and if they're aware of you. But driving physics in racing games, and of course driving AI, and then fighting AI are two of the biggest things that I think are hard for the biggest studios in the world to nail. And especially when you are like talking about a free form of combat. Like even in flat games, it doesn't matter if it's a third person game or a first person game, whether it's a Souls game or it's a more realistic RPG, you're still pushing buttons. So guys still kind of have like your character has a rhythm and a routine to, like, they have move sets. That's what I'm trying to say. And in VR, you're not locked into move sets. Like you're swinging the way you want to swing, and then this AI is trying to react to that. And then you're talking about studios on a budget trying to do this,
Yeah.
right? And I think that because a lot of times, like, you just are never fighting foes that are genuinely keeping you on the tip of your toes, like they're like that, like really reacting to you in real time and adjusting to the way you fight, and they're, and like being aggressive when they need to be aggressive, and all the things that would go into making it a like truly realistic fight, especially if you removed stamina, because the only way removing stamina really works to prevent it from being another waggle fest is that the way that they react to you,
Hmm.
and
No,
that
and that's
they have to follow the same type of rules, right? And most of these games just, like, again, like, they just, even the ones that are good are not great. And so because the AI is not there, these games have to find other ways to compensate for it.
yeah, 100%. This goes back to I just reviewed Ember Souls. Ember Souls is what it was. And I had like it very much relied upon the same idea of that Blade and Sorcery style combat, sorry. And where it failed was the AI. Like the enemies were dumb as posts. Like there was nothing going up there, which made the physics based combat so exploitable because you could just do it. You could just
Yeah.
walk, stab,
I
stab
saw
in the
you.
head,
You were just
stab in the head,
walking. You were just
stab in the head.
And once you got more OP'd, you were just walking through guys, whack, whack, no
Yeah,
head for you, no head for you.
yeah, it didn't matter at all. And so if there was AI backing the combat in that game, it'd be a totally different story. If the enemies actually would like try to block or parry or dodge or do anything that like a regular person would do in the combat situation, it would be a different story. But that was so it felt like they once they had the physics down, they're just like, well, you know what, we're good, we did it. Like this is physics based combat. But it's like no, you forgot about the combat side of it, and it just made it so mundane, and that is definitely a huge problem. Same reason actually why I didn't fall in love with Blade and Sorcery, even with the campaign stuff, was the exact same reason. It's like once you can exploit the AI, and you can just like even Swordsman. I remember Swordsman. If you just went for their leg every time, you won every time because they wouldn't block their leg properly, and you could just cheese the battle because it's still whack leg dead. So yeah, AI I
Yeah.
think would be a huge factor in fixing a lot of these games. If even going back to that clone drone game. Well, it's funny. I was playing it today. I wish I had my footage here. I don't. But like the enemy do react to you. Like they go through scripted attacks for sure. Like so the peons do the same thing. But like the boss guys you face, like the other gladiators essentially, like they will come at you full force and they're trying to like come up by and come low, and some have like two-handed blades. So you're trying to block both of them. But it did have me struggling in some cases, to get that done. And now that I'm thinking about it right now, like I did appreciate the fact that the AI in that game was actually doing something, which a lot of these games tend to not have them do. I mean, going back to like Everslot was a game where they would just run at you, and then you would just square up.
Everslot, I thought Everslot was on PC. It was gorgeous, and it got away with something because it kind of looked like Doom, like the way you just kind of just destroyed people and they just burst into blood and everything. But once they tried to turn it into a full game and they brought it over to Quest and it lost its visual flair, man, it was just so hard to everything was so scripted that it just that's their attack animation, and it was just, oh man, that would be on
I
the
remember you
side of,
showing me Everslot
yeah.
when it was early access on PC, and you're like, "This is like, check this out. This is so amazing." And then when we got the Quest version, it was just like, "Wow, that sucks."
And
And for the record, the PC version was never finished. It just got, I think it's removed. Is it still on Steam or did they remove it?
I'm not really sure. I think it's still. I mean, I still have it. The other problem with the Quest version, though, was that in addition to the AI of enemies and feeling like you're actually fighting something real that's reacting, and that, like, again, like you said, that you don't feel like you can just what's the word you said, like, you had a term for it. I was going to say cheese it, but you said you had a term for it once you kind of caught like a weakness in them, but you had a term that I liked.
I don't know. I mean, it's just an exploit. It's all it is. You just
Exploit. Thank you. Once
Okay.
once you found an exploit, right? I mean, that's a problem. But the other issue is like not not just being smart, but at least faking that you had like a decent like kind of movement system or any kind of AI. And what really kills that is that like for example, Everslot, they were dumb as posts in the PC version and the Quest version, but the Quest version also took away like half their animations.
Mm-hmm.
So they moved really like just very like gamey, clunky, like very almost animatronic. And then when they died, it also felt very just like cardboard. Like they're just like ha, and like there was like there was a lot more movement and the kind of the body like ragdoll physics and just the feeling of like hacking and slashing these enemies on the PC version. At least it felt visceral and fun. Like that wasn't even in the Quest versions. Like if you're gonna be arcade, then go arcade. Like
Yeah.
Doom VFR is a perfect example in the shooting world. It's like they're not the smartest. They kind of just they do have their patterns. They kind of go for you. It's very gamey, but it's visceral, it's bloody, it's a good time, and everything's just and it's just like fucking heavy metal like as a shooter, and it's awesome. Um and so I mean it's just very I don't know, like again, it's like all these different approaches to melee combat. It's like I feel like you gotta like commit to it. Like would Behemoth have gotten would I have been a lot happier with Behemoth if it had just kind of like say took a little bit of that Doom sauce and kind of doubled down a little bit on it? It's like, yeah, we're a game. Okay? We're see the health bar? We're a video game. We're not going to try to not be a video game. But when you but like we're also going to have a lot of fun with this. Like we're going to let you hack that arm off and then pick out that arm and then beat him with that arm. It's like we're gonna let you slash open his stomach and let his guts pour out, and then strangle him with his intestines. Like seriously, use that physics engine, have some freaking fun with it. Like if you're gonna be a playground game, and like go, they give you arenas. Like it even looked like Doom's setup, where you walked in, it was like, okay, we're in arena mode now.
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah,
clear
yeah.
enough waves so I can move on. That's how Doom 2019 and Doom Eternal played. Go for it then. Like commit to that shit. But it didn't. It had a lot of static to it, and it was like, and you could see the set movements of some of the guys. I never felt like I was taking on an individual that was actually kind of thinking and
Mhm.
like and being and like that I was like kind of fighting with. It was more like you said, like how do I exploit you or how do I watch your moves? I mean, but then there's the opposite. It's like I love Souls games, and Souls games are all about pattern recognition. It's not about real fighting. Not really. It's all about timing. It's all about your move versus their move. And that brings us to Grimlord. Because Grimlord just came out on Quest and it's been on PC for a bit. And it is trying to be a Souls game in VR. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, how's that going to work? Because again,
Mhm.
it's all about my move set versus your move set. And how does my guy move quickwise versus the enemy? And it's like a mix of stamina and strength and then agility and like how quickly can I roll, how quickly can I dodge, and it's like Grimlord does try to do that a little bit, but again it's VR and you can kind of cheese it a little bit. Like it's just so easy to just kind of like jump around. I got to the first boss and I just sat there, I got him in a corner, and I just started beating on him, just beating on him. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm man, like it kills it for me. And like, I mean, you come up to an enemy and they kind of have a move and they go, huh, huh, huh. Like you start to remember, okay, these guys have 3 attacks.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I appreciate what they're going for. It just doesn't, I don't know,
Translate to VR. I know, yeah, I see it. It
it
doesn't
doesn't
translate to VR.
translate as
Yeah.
well. And it was like, of course, after he did his moves, I kind of got there and I tried to get my whack in there. But he didn't really react to it. Because again, they're so caught up in trying to have their move sets
Yeah.
that it was like I kind of slashed him and he didn't. I don't know. It was kind of like he was getting ready to go back into his attack patterns.
Mhm. No, kind of as we circle all these different things, like I think we're kind of coming back to the idea of AI, where like you said, that when they fall in these attack patterns, like attack patterns, not to say they don't work in VR, like like gameplay elements have their place for sure, but when you're looking for like this physically brawler, and you can literally tell when this guy is like, all right, he's going up, he's coming down, he's gonna do a spin. And you're sitting there just like, wait, you're just sitting there just like, because you're just waiting for that spin attack where he can just finally go and just little quick stab. Just, boom, got it. And so it kind of undermines the whole system. Then I think of games like Until You Fall, or even Gorn had a very similar style where it's essentially turn-based, where you're...
Gorn wasn't really like that.
No, not Gorn. I said Gorn?
Yeah.
I said Until You Fall and...
You meant Gollum?
Gollum, sorry, yeah.
Gollum and Until You Fall, I definitely... Them and also Asgard's Wrath to a certain degree, where...
Oh, no, Asgard's Wrath is right in that same conversation. The problem with Asgard's Wrath, I was going to say, like, for a second there, I was like, if Behemoth kind of would have went committed to the Asgard's Wrath style combat, where you're kind of waiting for your turn, because they do fall into their scripted attacks. You do have to kind of like wait, dodge, and then go, but you can also just cheese the system anyways, because they try to, balance both. But Asgard's Wrath, like I said, like, there's just too much game there. Like, I got sick of the combat in that game as well. Like every encounter, once again, was just like, oh, like again, like square up, like dodge, block, and then wait for the spin, go in there. Like, so like the turn-based stuff works. Like Until You Fall did it best, I think.
Oh yeah.
And so
Gollum
really
like
Gollum
did
too, I guess. Yeah.
Until You Fall had a depth to it that Gollum didn't really have, just because of how you could like. It had the roguelite elements of how where you decided to put certain powers and what weapons you picked up and how they reacted, and what kind of different abilities they had attached to that certain weapon. So it had depth of gameplay through that roguelite system. I agree with you though, but I mean,
Gollum had that weightiness though. Like I can't.
I like Gollum
because Gollum had you. For those that don't know, I know Gollum's a PSVR 1 game, but you basically square up against these other Gollums. And they would you see their attack coming a mile away, like. They come from the right, so you'd be like, you put your thing up to block, and then they'd kind of go through their patterns as well. And then obviously, if you missed a block or an attack, or their patterns got like, as the further you got in the game, initially it'd be like 1 or 2 or 3 attacks, and by the end it's like 5 or 6 attacks. So you have to like dodge.
Yeah.
But it worked with the game, especially with you being like these slower paced, massive golems. It worked well. It wouldn't work. Like I said, it wouldn't quite work the same, in Behemoth. It just wouldn't work as well. But that kind of turn-based style of action can work. Like, so I remember I never got sick of the combat in Gollum. I remember getting frustrated towards the end when the final like the boss level guys were just hammering you with like endless attacks. It seemed like at times, and just if you messed up once, boom, you were hit, and you had to square up again. You have less health now. You're in trouble. But games like that though, like I guess when you get rid of the physics and just make it purely arcade like that does work.
You have to want that though. Like, Like I have to admit though, like I think I told you the story. When I played Souls game for the very first time, it was Bloodborne, and a couple of my buddies, including my brother-in-law, had bought the game at the same time. Both of them were huge Souls guys already, so. We're playing together in the headset. Like headset is in like audio, and we're just in group chat and we're talking, and I'm just dying. I can't get anywhere. I'm losing all my souls over and over and again. I'm ready to just throw this controller in the garbage. And they kind of explained to me, he's like, you gotta play. You keep trying to play it like just a normal RPG hack and slasher. You gotta play it like a Souls game. Like if you just get in there and just try to attack, you'll get wiped. That's how it works. You've got to pick your moments. You have to play it like a Souls game. You have to watch how they attack and then get in there, and you have got to fight to the enemy. You can't just go in there, at least in a lot of cases, and just like beat them down. Like you got, especially when you get into groups, like you have to play the game the way they want you to play the game. Is that one of my problems with Behemoth? Like, yeah, probably, and I got called on that. Is that like I didn't want to play it the way that like they wanted me to play it. I hate parrying in games. Flat or VR. I
get why, because like if you block in VR, like even not with a shield, let's just say with a sword, if you're blocking with a weapon, the only impact the only reciprocation you have is like it's like the vibration of the controller. It's like bzzz, when your sword's connected. If you're blocking, but if you're parrying, it kind of gives you that extra bit of like immersion, I guess, because now you are. You're moving to block that. There is, so I understand. Like I was gonna say with Behemoth earlier, like I did appreciate the parry system in Behemoth a lot more than I think you did, because because I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you like they're forcing that that impact, even though it's not there. They're kind of giving you a way to do it, whereas blocking doesn't do anything because you're just like.
Well, the other thing that people have to keep in mind, and I actually want to mention this to you, Ryan, because that's something I read in the patch notes I didn't tell you about, was that the version that we got, guys, and they didn't even really this was not in the patch notes, because all the patch notes that they told us, like as far as what was going to come in that day one patch, was almost all around visual stuff, like draw distance and
Pop in and
flickering and pop in and this and that, right? One of the things that did get changed in the first patch to a certain degree was the some of the hit detection around blocking and parrying. It was a little hit or miss in the pre-patch version, especially if you wanted to block a shot and you put your sword up and because you saw how they were going to come at you and you just went up and you got ready for it. Chances are they would come right through it and right at you. The only thing that really was a guaranteed block was a shield, and of course they break. They were really pushing the parry system. I think they have in the notes that I saw for today's update, they say they got like a little percentage attached to it, but they've made it much more forgiving for hit detection around both blocking and parrying. So there's obviously kind of acknowledgement from them there that it was like, not only was in the first patch, it was more like getting that hit detection to actually resonate.
oh man, we just lose Chris. We just lost Chris.
Good. I mean,
oh, he's back.
What are we talking about?
You cut out completely there for a second.
I'm here?
I think you're back.
Okay, good.
Just a weird glitch in the matrix.
Oh well, it's some hater on my review. Right? But anyways, I guess I just wanted to point that out, that like in today's patch notes, they're doubling down on trying to make parrying and blocking easier. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted, a lot of it was that, I mean, if I'd had a lot more time with it, because we had to blitz this review, I might have like kind of started to like succumb to its systems a little bit more. But it just constantly frustrated me that I was like, I had the feeling of a sim fighter, like with weighted weapons and a stamina system and just a physics-based game. And then I had this like health bar where it was like I would come up and I'd whack away at a guy, and it was like I can't actually take your arm until like, or I can't, the health bar is lower, and even then it's not guaranteed I'll get that arm. It was like, again, it was like a roll of the dice of whether it gave you the brutal like kind of critical hit. And I just constantly frustrated me that I felt like I was just being gamified, even though I had like all the things were contrary to that, like all the inputs I was getting as far as weighted weapons and like in this physics-based world. I would, I'd go up to a guy and I'd run at him and he's totally open and I was like, ah! And I had a perfect, like, I was running at the guy and I'm like stabbing him right to the chest, and the blade just goes and just kind of like slid off his body and slid to the side. And then I was like, oh, like, man, it's like getting ready to have sex with a beautiful woman and then her husband walks in. I was like, oh, well, that just changed everything.
It's exactly like that.
Exactly like that, right? And then it was just like limp. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Pick up and run. I'm now in my I read.
Well, so it comes back to, so like the whole kind of point is, we're getting kind of a little tangential here, but like, we've picked up some things we like as far as some games, and obviously things we hate. But like, how do you make like a perfect meal? Let's just Behemoth. We'll just take Behemoth again because this is what we're doing.
How would I tweak Behemoth?
How would you make Behemoth the best VR fighter it can be?
I would say if I was them, I would spend more time as on the AI, because the AI is good. It's one of the better AIs we've seen in a game like this, because like let's be honest, its competition is mostly small VR teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think this is probably one of the first like actual kind of like VR melee games that had like a big studio behind it, like big budget for real, outside of a zombie game.
I
Uh,
agree. I can't think of a single like brawler like this that or it's something brawler, but physics based like this from a AAA developer. Like I
from
no.
all the big games that I list, like if I was to list my
I
favorite,
mean, Batman. We never really talked about the combat in Batman, which I think is kind of a little bit of a weird, unique one. There from Arkham Shadow.
uh, I mean, if you had to compare it, it's Until You Fall in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like it went full arcade. Like you can't. I mean, it had it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you had to play within its rules. Like if you just went like no, like you're not going to get there. You had to punch in its like, at least
Yeah.
you had to what I liked about it is that you could punch as fast as you wanted for the most part. Like you know what you notice like when you got up to a guy, it would give you like all three punch points. It didn't like give you one and then the next one and then the next one. It would give you like
Mm-hmm.
you'd be like like it allowed you to see what the combo had to be, and it gave you like it had the combat in Batman was brilliant, but they were also trying to recreate the flat combat. But the way that they made that so that you were also leaping from guy to guy and like you could cancel, like you weren't just committed to something, you could actually kind of cancel it if you wanted to swing the other way. Like it gave a really great flow to it, and it kind of punished you if if you were janky in your fighting, you didn't feel like you had that good flow. Now going back to Behemoth, I like I said, I think a lot of it comes down to AI. I would have get rid of the health bar, get rid of that freaking health bar, and I because I feel like the health bar is a crutch for the AI not being good enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's ultimately I think what my problem was, and I probably should have explained that a little bit better in my review. Is that I feel like they gave a health bar because these guys couldn't defend themselves if you decided to just really go at them.
Mm-hmm.
I've said in my review, I still think, I mean, SS made a comment about God mode, and then without God mode, you couldn't cheese it. I'm going to assume when he says God mode, he means that strength ability.
Yep.
I heard they were considering tweaking the strength ability so it had a
I mean,
bigger
the problem is it
cooldown.
is needed though. The problem is it's not.
They based the whole game around it.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is it's I mean, tweaking it. I
Uh,
mean,
Honestly, all they need to do is give it a longer cooldown.
yeah, no, that would
And
help.
not way longer, just a little bit longer, so that you couldn't like rely on it, because
Mm-hmm.
it was such that I would kind of backpedal on the second guy after I just
Yep.
killed his buddy and wait so I could just destroy him, and a lot of that was because I was getting tired of the tit for tat with the parrying system, and like I get it if you love I'll admit it, neither Ryan and I are like we're not going to sword fighting classes, we're not fencers. And
Which I love that comment too. It's like if you guys knew about real sword fighting, okay, calm down there, buddy.
well, Broken Edge, the game, which again, guys, like I don't even know if I can explain it because it's so different than anything we talked about. It was using like an arcade approach to replicate the punishment of real sword fighting, like by like kind of failing to do certain things. Like you were like trying to like shorten the sword on the guy. I don't know if I can remember how that
Yeah,
game
so you
completely worked.
can't you want to basically hit as low on the blade as possible. That was essentially like your health bar was like the length of their blade. Um, so and then how it worked is that it looked like you remember this like you were stationary, but it would move you guys together. So like you both played stationary, but the game would just slowly force you there. So it looked like Chris was coming towards me, and on Chris's screen it looked like I was coming towards him. And depending on which fighter you chose, like Barbarian had this huge, massive sword, or like the ninja with the two blades, or the katana, they're all different blades. You have to kind of like figure a way to like basically you want to kind of dodge and then use like their special attacks. Like it wasn't my jam, but apparently if you were like a swordsman, I don't know what the term
Yeah.
is, like but like who especially who used like bladed weapons in real life. Apparently this game is the bee's knees. It's just I'm not a guy who's like done a lot of sword battles in real life, so like it just didn't for myself translate really well. And this I think it's the lowest rated review we have on the channel. I got a lot of flack for my review because everyone was like, "No, man, this is amazing." But to me, it wasn't swordplay more. It was like a ballet where we're trying to like not touch each other's tips, so to speak, because if you did, you might, lose that battle. And it just became it was more about chess than it was about sword, like the sword play.
And
And so for myself, it didn't translate at all.
and if there's anybody watching this that had that opinion, I'm sure that they're just vibrating right now because they'd be like, that's exactly what fencing is. It's
Yeah.
chess. Like they would say, like it's like you're playing checkers and we're playing chess. Like, and I get it. Fine, sure. That was a game where it was just like, yeah, this is just it didn't speak to us.
Well, like, one of the
I
biggest
didn't
problems
get
too is because it kind of forced you together. Like it was just you were constantly getting close. You couldn't back off. You couldn't do anything except move around your personal space. But even moving backwards, you wouldn't actually move backwards in the game. You would still be slowly going together. To me, that was a killer because if I wanted to back off from a guy, I couldn't. So then I'm just getting closer and closer to this guy. Well, it just, like I said, I don't want to like slag the game. It just didn't work for me. But like I said, apparently if you are a professional fencer, is that it?
Yeah.
A fencer?
So I have a buddy who we're no longer friends anymore, and I kind of wish him and I were friends around the time that you did Broken Edge because he was an actual fencer, I guess. Like he took fencing classes, and he hated. He was a VR guy too, and he hated almost every sword-based combat, flat or VR. Like it just drove him nuts.
What you're saying is ignorance is bliss, is what you're saying.
Oh, pretty much, right? It's like if you ever listen to anyone who's like has military experience, it's like you don't watch action movies with those guys. They ruin them. Because I have a couple of military buddies, and like they'll talk, they suck. Like, good God! I mean, actually, they'll watch John Wick, and then look at that. That's legit. That's how it's done. But like for the most part, like they can't watch anything. They hate it. It ruins it for them. They can't have fun with it.
I got really into MMA there for a little while there years ago, but I got so like I knew every move, I was like I lived MMA, and yeah, that ruined action movies for me because I just saw all the BS behind. I was like, that wouldn't work. That's not how you do it. That's not a chokehold. That's not like it's just I knew it. Yeah. So I get what you're saying as far as I do understand that to a point, anyways.
So like I'll be the first to admit that like we're sitting here trying to have this like deep conversation about like the technical aspects of melee games in VR and how they don't deliver, but it's like okay, it's also coming from the point of view of two fucking morons who really just play video games, and we think we know what we like. But back to your original question of like what would I do to make Behemoth perfect?
Yes,
like I said, health bar gone, but then you got to have the AI back that up. And I also want like want them to like go back to kind of more the visceral damage system to the bodies that they had in Saints and Sinners. Now, like I get it, right? They're squishy zombies and these are armored combatants, so it's got to be different. But I feel like there's got to be some kind of a middle ground there. I mean, I look at Blade. I say Blade and Sorcery. I would say is kind of more similar, but then again, Blade and Sorcery also falls apart because of its AI. Like you can just kind of run at them and skewer them, and like I want the game where I'm just like I start running at a guy with a sword, and he just turns around and runs. I want the guy that's just like I want nothing to do with this. Or,
yeah, I was pretty stoked.
Or he sees me coming running at him, and he just goes fling, and he just like slaps my sword right out of my hand because that bullshit's not going to fly in a real fight.
Yeah, something I guess we talked about Creed, but I didn't really talk about like a Thrill of the Fight.
Yeah,
Thrill of the Fight. I love Thrill of the Fight because it's your stamina, and if you have the boxing skills, which I don't, you can knock guys out in like a minute. The AI, or depending upon your lack skills, you can be in a 12-round battle with these guys because you just don't have the skills. And it's something that I missed, I guess, from Thrill of the Fight 2, which is out now for early access. Is that right now it's only online multiplayer?
Yeah.
And I was so looking forward to seeing what improvements they would have made, if any, from the first Thrill to the second Thrill, because I love that game and I love going through the campaign. As far as a VR workout regime goes, I use that game because it's fun. It's fun to sit there and just beat on guys. And when you crank the difficulty, like they don't mess around. Like there was a reason why Dana White shouted that game out a couple years ago, and it blew up huge because that game is no joke, man. Like you're gonna sweat your ass off and be exhausted after like one round fighting these guys because they don't hold back, and that's the kind of stuff I think we're talking about, like AI. Like I asked you this question specifically because I knew my answer would be AI, and I'm happy to say you got there real quick. Because yeah, I think AI would fix a lot of things. Going back to Amber Souls, even Clone Drone, same thing. Where like all these games, as from as simple and low budget as they can be to as big budget as Behemoth, I think AI really would be the most beneficial aspect to brawlers, physics based or otherwise. But I mean, we're talking physics based now, really, to really make things go to the next level. Like when you can't cheese a system because they are on you, they are blocking, and when you're ready, like if they can do like a sneak attack or something like unexpected, and not falling into the routine 3 moves or whatever move sets they have, and actually being like, whoa, like watch. What have you ever seen a guy in VR like switch hands with his weapon? Like he's right-handed.
Yeah.
Lefty. Whoa! Things just got real here for a second.
You know what I want? I want the game where the guy I want a blade and sorcery type of game. Where they get a good swing at me, and I look at my left arm and it's just gushing blood, and all I've got left is a shoulder. Like,
dude,
bring it.
I know I keep saying it, but Clone Drone, it's dumb. But my first battle, dude cut my arm off, and so I had to play the rest of the game until I die because you're a clone, right? So I had one hand. I couldn't, and I didn't just lose the ability. Like I lost all function. I couldn't teleport with that hand anymore. I couldn't like that hand was that controller was gone. I was like, awesome. It was so cool because it's just this extra bit of immersion. But it's like I had to teleport. I couldn't. I had to grab things. When you win, you have to like grab the item at the end of your trophy. And I was like, oh, I had to like drop my weapon, grab the thing, pick my weapon up. Like but it's stupid immersion. But it's that kind of stuff. When we talk about immersion, like you don't think about that kind of shit. Why would you think about like what if I didn't have an arm? But when it happens to you, and then you can't use any buttons to control, they didn't work anymore. It's like that is so cool. Like whoever thought of that is a genius.
That's what I love. That's what I want. And again, it's just these games, and I get it. It's hard. These games are straddling between realism and physics, or realism and arcade. And I'm sure there's some people out there like, you don't want a realistic VR combat game because, like you said, like what happens if they whack your leg off? How do you replicate that in VR? That you're just dragging your ass along with one leg, or maybe I guess the way they do it is your movement becomes very slow, and now you're just like, now they can dance around you, and you can't keep up. Like I'd love to do that, right? And SS is saying that just basically what we said before is that the AI has to be so advanced in VR because it's responding to someone who's moving unpredictably. What are you shaking your head for?
I'm screwing up my end. Don't worry.
Okay, I thought maybe you lost my
behind the scenes stuff. No, we're good.
And so, I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else of Behemoth that I would really. I mean, if the AI was more sophisticated, it was a little bit more less gamey as far as like the violence goes. Like where I could, like, if I wanted to go for your arm, I could get your arm as long as you gave me access. They let you take their arm. Like they'd have to like block it, like be a fighting game. And get rid of I was gonna say get rid of the health bar. I like the stamina bar. And like Ryan and I were talking a couple days ago. I asked him if he'd ever seen it's called AMMA. It's Armored Mixed Martial Arts. And guys, it's sweet. Go on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's the perfect nightcap to this podcast. It is literally guys in a octagon, and they are wearing full like medieval style armor. They got chainmail. They got like full like steel armor on with
and
like
weapons
with metal joints. Yeah, and they've got swords and little axes. And from what I've seen, I'm not sure if they got like how much bigger they go with that. They don't seem to have any chain based stuff.
No, I haven't seen that either.
But these guys just go at it with each other, and they're bending each other's armor. They get them on the ground. They're putting an armored knee into an armored head. Like these guys are, and what you notice immediately is that they are spent.
Yeah,
because these things are heavy, and what they're swinging is heavy, and they're freaking done. There's parts where they're on the ground, and the two of them are just like, There, and you see them between rounds, and they're just, and like at the end when they take all their armor off, and they have to go there and like lift their arm for the winner, like they can barely stand. It's like, so yeah, I think you need a stamina bar in a game like Behemoth. Like,
I got something else too, actually,
you
that I want to
can't
add.
just. I don't feel like it's that is super unrealistic that you would just swing till you're tired because you're not wearing 60 pounds of armor.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I mean, like I said, for certain like the boxing games, like I said, when you're playing
That
versus
makes a
boxing,
lot of sense.
it makes so much sense, man. Because like I said, when you're sitting there
It's almost a
breathing,
one-to-one.
you're sitting there, and you can hear your buddy you're facing, and they're like, it just makes for a really realistic experience. What I was gonna say is that what I want for Behemoth, what I want for any melee game is full on impactful dick and box shots. I want women and men to both react to just getting cranked down low. How funny would that be in Behemoth? It's just like, boom, and the guy just hands go down there, they're exposed, head get cut off. I'm a champion. I want that in every melee game for it. I want legitimate box
Dick
punches.
shots. I want dick shots. No, see, I'm screwed up because
Forget AI. AI's stupid. AI's dumb answer. I want dick shots.
But this is what I'm saying. It's another way to go. This is what Blade and Sorcery knew. It's like, well, you know what? We can't make them smart enough to fight right. So we're gonna make it fun. And I still think it's ridiculous that Blade and Sorcery has not adopted some of the mods. Like the cut mod is better than anything I've ever seen in any game since. Some guy made a mod where you could where you just sliced
You've
an
already
arm.
said this. You've already said this.
But I'm going to explain it. But it bleeds down the arm, and it even coagulates. Like it stops bleeding after a while, and like it. So it's like a really in-depth cut system combined with a bruising system, and it's like, yeah, like bring it on, buddy. Like that's if you can't be the best in AI, be the most violent. Hey Justin, how's it going, buddy? Seriously though, like you're gonna have adder. You're like Blade and Sorcery, man. I want to be able to like get the guy in the ground. You can curb stomp them in Blade and Sorcery. You can actually put a guy's head down the ground, and
it's in your footage. We have the footage here.
You have where you're like, blah, blah, right? I want to be able to like get the guy down on the ground, like you said, and then just like how you can like some of the games you can like crack their necks, or in Blade and Sorcery you can cover their mouth. I don't know. I didn't remember if these are mods or not. But I want it where you can go down, reach down the guy's like his little cloth type of little dressy thing, yank his cock out and then just fucking cut it off with a knife, and then just walk around the arena like, just, are you not satisfied? Just like, that's what I want. You screw this. You want dick shots. I want full on.
You should
I want to
find.
just be like,
You should find. I want you after this podcast to find like the number one like Blade and Sorcery mod guy, and I want you to pitch this. And I want you to call it the Shug mod. I want to be like, this is it. It's the Shug. I'll pay for it. Shug mod. I want to be cutting off penises.
I want their dicks. I want to be able to skewer them
By the way,
on my sword like a shish kebab and walk around. I mean, that is the most like. That is how you demasculate an entire group of soldiers.
everyone who's left watching, please tell your friends to watch this because the algorithm is never going to share this with anybody. This is just for you guys.
I'm not even getting started. I'm messed up. I did a video. I recommend you go watch it. I think I'm hilarious. It's called like I think it's called like, just type in the VR Grid most violent VR game, and it'll come up. I can't even remember what I called it. I think it was like, I think the poster's like, how is this even legal? And I covered like a bunch of games in the beginning, but then I did like long let's plays of Blade and Sorcery, Hellsplit Arena, Hard Bullet, and Blood Trails. And those are still four.
I can't believe these VR games are legal, but they're awesome, is the name of your video.
And I really recommend you watch that because I'm very entertaining. And I actually am surprised that video's probably been shadow banned, to be honest with you, because like there's some pretty inappropriate stuff in there.
7.7 thousand views. I'll put it in the video description here right away.
You'll see the mods in Blade and Sorcery that I was talking about. I actually went on a head hunt, and I like had a pile of heads, and then I put them all on my sword and made a little skewer. I had a lot of fun with that game. I'd really like to see Hellsplit Arena come to PSVR 2. That's a fun game. It was
supposed to come back to PSVR 1. Remember back in the day they were talking about it?
Yeah.
And they were just like, that's not, and they shut it down. They're like, that's not going to happen.
Well, it's still one of the most beautiful melee games I've ever seen in VR. You can ride a sword or ride a horse and like gallop around like slashing guys, and it's amazing. there's maps that are on like frozen lakes, and the enemies are slipping as they're fighting with you. It's unbelievably awesome.
Okay, the link to
And
that video should actually be in this video description now. So if you guys want to head over and watch 17 minutes of Chris literally committing like the most heinous of crimes in a virtual world, it's
and
there.
I'm going to tell you, it's in order of amping up, right? Blade and Sorcery is the second video. There's 2 more after that. Hard Bullet. I mean, if you have ever wanted to take a person and put them into a meat grinder, or grab another guy and put his head down on a drill press and then drill it into his head while he's like, ah! Or if you've ever wanted to take someone and put their head against a stone grinder, yeah, this is the game for you.
I'd say this is shameless self-promotion, but it helps me out too, so let's do this.
and then Blood Trails, that's a PC game. Trust me, guys, it's never coming to end.
Is that the one with the no, I play all these.
In the video, you could like they've changed it slightly, but in the video you could just like drop. Guys would just drop down.
Yeah.
Padded room, and you could just like. And
they were all like methy looking and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, they are. They're supposed to be meth heads. That's how it's okay, right? Because meth kills, right, kids? But like, I mean, I've still to this date, I just played it recently. No game. Like, if you're messed up like I am, if you like horror movies, nothing comes close to this. Like for example, you got a guy and he's like, and I had like a corkscrew, like a wine bottle cork opener, and I jammed it into his face, and you actually saw him die. Like, you see his eyes go, and you see the color drain from his face. I was like, oh man, I feel like I gotta go. I feel like I gotta go tell someone this now. Like, it's not okay. You can get a knife and like,
it's not
and like,
okay.
and you can like cut like pieces of their flesh off. Like, it's fucked up. And like, when you take a shotgun and you like shoot their head, like half their head like blows apart. There were teeth on the ground. I could hear him like and he was like choking on his own blood because his nose cavity was gone. Like, that's
I was just gonna say, you know what I like in Behemoth is that when you kill guys when their eyes go wide, I really appreciated that. And then I forget these games exist. I'm like, all right, never mind. Forget I said anything.
Like, it is, I mean, it's a murder simulator. It's not for everyone.
He's covering his mouth right now, thinking about it. Oh man.
But it's crazy. Like, man, I'm gonna out myself, but if you've ever seen any video on like the sites like LiveLeak or gore.com and stuff like this, and you watch like what like real combat looks like, or what it's like, that's what Blood Trails does. Like, when you shoot guys and they just kind of drop in a way that's not even remotely Hollywood. It's not for everybody, man. Not for everybody.
Right.
Let's just say Blood Trails is not a game I would share with like a lot of people.
You shared it with YouTube. You shared it with every people.
I'm like, well, I guess I did do a video, and I didn't really hold back. In fact, I was cackling like a maniac, and people commented on it. That's like, he's just like, ah!
All right, Chris. I think we've pretty much.
I think we've said a baseline about why I didn't like Behemoth, and it's not a good one.
Yeah, you're in therapy, right? Yeah, I give her a call. You're in therapy.
Well, yeah, and then some.
Oh man. I think are we done here? I think we're.
I don't know how we come back from this.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's it, guys. After this video, watch the Armored MMA, and then come back and watch Chris's 7 most violent video games, because it's a treat. It's a treat.
Now, Salvador, here's the thing: Shug will not be in retirement with VR PTSD. Shug will be putting people into retirement with VR PTSD if they watch some of these videos. Like, I'm going to guess that the video that we recommended you go watch is going to play very differently depending on your sanity. I don't know.
Sanity.
It's like, I mean, it just depends on what you like, right? Like, I thought that was hilarious. I still watch it and laugh. Is that worse? That I watch myself doing those things?
Dude, I've been watching this Blade and Sorcery video for the last like 10 minutes, and watching you like hacking heads and throw them all around. Like, you're clearly having fun.
Yeah, like that. And I was like yelling at it, "Give me your head!" Because it wouldn't give it to me anyways. It was good times. This is what yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I wanted more of that in Behemoth. I wanted
Are you
more.
not entertained?
I
Are you
wanted,
not
yeah.
entertained?
Ultimately, I wanted more of that playground hack and slasher, and I think that's probably. It felt so gamey and clunky. It felt clunky, which I know that they worked on. I just wanted to end off before I don't want to end it off totally on that note. A couple games we didn't talk about, and we don't have to jump into them. But if you guys are looking for other examples of great, like what I think are pretty good physics-based fighters, there's Battle Talent and Dungeons of Eternity. So the last, and Legendary Tales. I feel like all three of those, and of course there's Undead Citadel as well. If you've got a PC request, that I also thought was good times. Now, again, like none of those are perfect. I feel like I have issues with all of them. I also find that for me, again, like I think we've established that I'm like a little sadistic and have a pretty dark sense of humor. So when I have to when fighting skeletons does nothing for me. Nothing.
I need guts. I want to see your insides.
I do. I need soft flesh and blood. Hellsplit Arena had a nice combination of it was great fun to be able to take a body and then just lay him down on a guillotine and put his head into the guillotine and then go get the basket put under his head. And I'm telling him I know it's gonna hurt. It's okay. It's okay. This is okay. And then bloop. But those other three games I mentioned are varying degrees. I would say probably Legendary Tales is my personal favorite out of those three. But they're all fun physics-based games, and like I said, I don't know. So before we leave, let's just end this on a Ryan note. We always end this on a talking soft note. What is your favorite hack and slash melee kind of game? And is there anything you would do to push it across the finish line?
See, that's a tough one. Like I said at the beginning, it's not really my jam. I don't really thrive on these physics-based stuff. I just kind of find their games rely too heavily upon that, and it kind of just ruins it for me. I mean, like I said, even Behemoth, I'm looking forward to getting to the big epic stuff. So for me, I just want something. I mean, I go back to honestly stuff like Golem, and Golem's a bit too simple for this, but I think Golem's a pretty example of just kind of where I kind of fall, where it is that simple. It is still a simpler system, but there's still it has that weightiness. I mean, yes. I want to feel like I'm holding a heavy weapon or a big whatever I'm holding, and if dude's swinging a big sword at me, I want to feel like I'm blocking that. And obviously, there's a sense you have to turn your brain off in some senses. If some guys big giant swords coming at you, you're just doink. It doesn't quite jive. You kind of got to play with it a bit as far as until the technology advances enough where we have full body haptics that are pulling our body around for us, which would be insane. I just want something that has that like I said, when I block something, I see that weight behind it, and then when they come at me, that weight behind it, and it's I don't know where I land. It's funny. Like I said, this stupid clone drone game, as dumb as it is actually just talked about it earlier, but when it cut off my arm and I lost all control of my arm, I was like, this is cool. I want it it's immersion, but I don't know what the answer is to your question except to say I want to be immersed. Because I love all the violent stuff you do. That's all well and good and fine, and being able to mess around like that is sweet. But when it comes to actual combat in a game, I don't want to be cheesing peons. I want to be in a battle where I'm I'm not hitting the strength button to just fucking whack a guy.
Well, we circle back to AI, I think, right? I think ultimately,
I think it's ultimately what it comes down to.
Back to. Although I'm glad you brought up Gollum. Make it for Gollum did something that a lot of these games still struggle with, I think. And the reason, I actually did not love Until You Fall, just because I like roguelites, but I don't know, the super arcadey, the basically follow the leader type thing as far as combat goes. You do this and then that and then and I got tired of it. But Gollum sold me because it did that too, to a less sophisticated degree. But what Gollum did was that when it was your time to attack, you felt like you had the power of He-Man in you. Like when you know what I mean, like when you managed to like, I guess parry in the order that they wanted you to, and you got to attack, you felt like you were just beating them like just down, and the way that that the enemy took the impact made you feel like you had the weight of a giant golem behind you, and you just see him go, whoa! And like so I remember just being like, it'd be like ting ting ting, ah! And then it's like ping ping, blah!
Yeah.
And it really, that's how they managed to communicate this great sense of heft to when you did attack. And I feel like if they hadn't nailed that, then it would have just been like a less sophisticated Until You Fall, which had come out already. And but Gollum felt weighty. And
Gollum came after Until You Fall?
I'm pretty sure it did.
I can't argue either way. To me that's wrong, but I can't really say.
What do you think? Is, so. I don't know. Now you got me second guessing. Like,
I want to say Gollum was first, but
regardless,
I'm not looking at this right now. Yeah,
no.
sorry.
But I mean, I agree with you. Gollum had some secret sauce going for it. It didn't do everything right. But like, I liked what it was doing as well.
My takeaway from this episode is I want to play Gollum again, and I'm not plugging in my PSVR 1. It's not going to happen. It's like, man, Sony, come on, like port these things over. Anyways,
just to answer Savage, I actually really, really did not like Survive's melee. I hated it actually. I thought it felt super, super light and generic. Like I just felt like you just swung at a guy and then Q head animation.
Was that the 4-player one? The 4-player co-op one? Okay.
I thought it had. I would actually say it was some of the worst zombie melee combat. I'm not trying to be a dick to Savage. It's funny. Like again, everyone has their own opinions. But I actually felt the exact opposite of that. I used only shooting guns. Hated the melee. Felt so cheesy. And I feel the way with most zombie games, to be honest with you. I really liked the weighted that Saints and Sinners did with it. And we didn't really talk about like Walking Dead. What's the other one called? Onslaught. And it took a more arcadey approach to stabbing, and it could feel like a stabathon. It was fun.
Yeah. You just like ka-chunk, because there was no weapon degradation.
Not just there wasn't not just that it had no weapon degradation, but like Saints and Sinners, again, like I said, like it didn't always work for it. But like remember how it said certain blades in Saints and Sinners had a sharpness rating, and the sharpness rating determined how quickly they came out. Like if you jammed it into a skull, if it had a higher sharpness rating, it would come out quicker. And like sometimes that really especially if you were like backpedaling at the same time, all of a sudden you could have a 10-foot arm. Because the arm didn't keep up with, like, it got stuck in the head and it didn't come out right. But it mostly worked. And Onslaught was just like, yeah. And it was fun. But again, it was just, I don't know. It's different approaches. And it's like, and I think that's why it's such an interesting topic, is because there are these fundamental problems of VR. Again, it's like weighted versus Wagglefest. Stamina versus real world stamina. It's kind of like weapon breaking versus no weapon breaking.
Mm-hmm. I've never liked weapons degrading. I've never ever since Oblivion, like I've always hated the mechanic of like weapons degrading.
I like weapons degrade. I was just gonna go off on that I don't want to go on to. I like weapons degrading in survival games. Because I think it's realistic.
Sure, but survival games is different.
But even then, getting that secret sauce again right is how quickly they deteriorate. Because if they go too quick, it can get really tedious very quickly. Saints and Sinners was a little quick, but then it also worked in the game loop because it's like you wanted to get the better weapons that deteriorated less quickly, and then there were other perks you could get, like that would again give weapons more durability because you were making better weapons. Like I mean that it worked for me because again I got hooked. I was like, I can't wait to get the weapons that hold up better. Mm-hmm. But it was also, and then again, like, but I just feel like they had the game loop so so perfectly balanced in there that yeah, weapons broke, but then you also had to just take that into consideration. I better bring a few extra weapons, or I'm betting that I'm going to find something, or like because you could literally end out there with a damn spoon and nothing else because you didn't come prepared.
Yeah.
Anyway,
AI, that's what we come. AI is for the win.
thank you. That's what I was going to say. Is no matter where I feel like no matter where you come at this from, of whether you all these different ways you go on the arcade versus realistic side of things, it all comes down to. I would say if you're on the realistic side, it all comes down to AI. Because if you're going for the hard arcade side, I mean, like I don't see anyone ever criticizing Until You Fall, which some people would call like the best version of Melee in VR. If that's what they want. It's not like you're criticizing the AI.
Yeah.
Because it's all like predetermined, kind of.
Yeah.
It's not reacting to you.
No, it's basically it's VR QuickTime events is what it is. It's just that's how VR does QuickTime events. It's just pre-scripted actions you have to react to.
Yeah.
I'm just watching myself stab zombies and Walking Dead Onslaught now.
I am very interested. Let's bring this full circle and we can end off on this, I guess.
Sure.
I'm very interested to see where Behemoth is going to go.
Oh yeah, like 6 months from now or something like that?
Yeah, because they're patching quite a bit. And they're patching quite a few things that I was hoping they would patch and didn't know if they would patch. Like they are focusing on some of the reactions of the AI. If you look at the patch notes there, like there's like one of the move sets they did. I think it was like a sidestep. They've actually disabled it. It says for now, which means like they're looking at it going like it's just we got to take it out because it's not working. So they're obviously looking at the combat and they're giving guys options. Like the fact that they like this quickly put in a no stamina option, but then you couldn't get on the scoreboards or whatever if you use that. Like I'm interested to see what kind of options I would not be surprised if in addition to them tweaking the AI that they're going to start to give just some like almost like cheat options where people can go in and turn on and off certain things to play it the kind of the way they want to play it, because that seems like the direction they're going with the ability to turn stamina off as an option. And as they inevitably tweak it, so because there was a certain level of jank to just everything, like it could feel a little clunky. I have no doubt that they have the skill and they have the money to continue to tweak this game. I would say that by even January, Behemoth is going to be a bit of a different beast, and I'm going to wait to play it again. And I am going to give it a solid playthrough, I think, after they've had some time to cook. I mean, Gamertag famously said when he was at the game show that when he'd played it at the game show, when he found out that they delayed this until November, he said let them cook. And that was coming from the point of view of someone who had played it. I think that's still a fair assessment. As much, I mean, if people are loving it now, awesome. I'm so happy you're loving it because ultimately, we're just here to have good times. But I am very curious to see what this game feels like as I don't think it's not their full vision. I don't think yet.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess time will tell. But I'm enjoying playing through it again. But I do want to playing through it. But like I said, I do see the issues, and I just want to see the big Behemoth fights. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah, but as I said in my review, when the game its entire foundation is one-on-one combat, basically. Yeah. It's like, and you have 4 behemoths.
And dragging crates to go on switches. Don't forget about the crates and switches.
Sorry, completely forgot about crates on switches.
Every puzzle.
Yeah, I know. Again, would have liked some variety because I like Asgard's Wrath is a better example of that.
Yeah, except there's just too much game there, but that's another story. Chris, let's stop talking for the love of God. Fine then. Say thanks. You say thanks. Thank everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good job.
Seriously, thank you for everyone who's sat through this chat with us, and of course our patrons. We love you guys. If you guys are interested in becoming patrons, you know the deal. Look in the notes. One thing I want to mention that we used to mention all the time, and we should have mentioned it at the beginning, is that if you want to listen to this instead of watching this. We are on all the major podcast networks under the Virtual Boys podcast. Top 10 in Thailand. For video games.
Right. I forgot about that.
It
For all
might
the
have
wrong
something to do with
reasons.
might have something to do with the fact that it was called Virtual Boys. Well, aren't they disappointed? But yeah, guys, if you want to listen to it, all the podcasts are up there, 1 to 99. And
Yep.
I'm going to guess, even though Ryan and I haven't even talked about this, it would probably be great for us to go out on the year of episode 100 and then take a Christmas break.
Probably. That makes a lot of sense because,
That
I mean, really,
makes-
next week is the 19th, so we're not doing the 26th. I guarantee that's not happening.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a year-end rundown of all the games that we played and that we liked. I don't know. I'm talking.
Maybe I'll do a
right now.
giveaway next week as well.
Yeah, what's up with that? We're swimming in codes, man.
I know, but it's just I get distracted, then I can't talk as well. So next week we'll do a big giveaway, Quest, PSVR 2 if we have stuff, and a lot of Steam stuff. I'll just constantly drop codes. Just drop codes the whole time.
We got some good codes too, especially
maybe even some bangers. We may have a few bangers.
There's some bangers.
There's some bangers.
All right, guys, we're